David Bird at dbch.co.uk here. I want to talk to you about another anxiety busting technique that I use with my clients. And this one's called the shapeshifter. Now, it's more commonly called the Submodality Headache Cure. Don't ask why. Though one of the reasons is because it was originally developed to be a tool for helping with headaches. It's actually really quite a good one. So next time you have a headache, I'd suggest you have a go at using it. If it doesn't work, that could be because it's a dehydration headache. So you just need a glass of water. Anyway, similar to the spinning technique that I talked about before, this is about using your imagination to get more of a handle on your emotions. And also, like spinning, you don't just have to use it on anxiety, you can use it on any feeling really. But for the purpose of this video, we'll be assuming that we're working on anxiety. If you haven't already watched the video on spinning that I did, I'd encourage you to go back and watch that first, because I talk about some of the challenges of doing some of these imagination techniques, some of the difficulties people can have, and I don't want to go over and repeat a lot of that here. So the first thing I'll ask is, do you feel anxious now? If you do, we can work with that. If not, just allow your mind to begin to drift back, maybe over the last couple of days, couple of weeks. Just try and recall a time when you felt anxious. It doesn't have to be a strong anxiety, just enough that you can feel that anxiety now. So that once you've got that experience of anxiety, just ask, if there was somewhere in your body you felt that anxiety strongest, where would that be? If there was somewhere in your body you felt that anxiety strongest, where would that be? Now, for some of you, it will come up very quickly. You'll know where it is. For others of you, you might not be so sure. Just ponder the question and see what comes up for you. If you're really not sure, but you still know that you're anxious, you still know you're experiencing anxiety, let's just go with that. So the next thing to ask is, if that anxiety had a shape, what shape comes to mind now? If that anxiety had a shape, what shape comes to mind now? And just notice what shape your mind generates. Now, that shape, you might find that shape comes very quickly and it's very clear to you. You may find it takes a little bit of time if you're not used to doing this kind of thing. You may also find that you just get more of a sense or an idea of the shape. Whatever happens for you, just run with it. When you've got that, the next question we ask is that shape darker or lighter than the background that it's on? Is that shape darker or lighter than the background that it's on? And just begin to notice. And like I said before, you might see clearly that one is darker than the other, or you might just get a sense or an idea. It doesn't matter whether you can see it or not, just that you know. It doesn't really matter if which one is darker, which one's lighter, just that we know which is which. I'm going to assume for this video that for you it's the shape that's darker and the background is lighter. But if it's the opposite for you, just swap what I'm doing. So the next thing I want you to do is this. Begin to focus on the shape and notice that as you do, you can just begin to make that shape lighter, making that shape lighter and lighter the more that you focus on it. Lighter and lighter. More in line with the background, the lighter it gets. Lighter and lighter. Until that shape is the same tone as the background, and all you can see is the faint outline of that shape. And when you get there, just notice what happens. Okay. Now, for some of you that will happen very quickly, and for others of you it will take a little bit longer. Again, this is also something that gets easier with practice. Also notice what shifts for you, what changes for you when you get to that point. For some people it will be that you can just see that it's lighter. For others of you, you'll get a feeling that it's there. Maybe it's a combination. Just notice what it is in your experience that happens. And when you get to that point, this is what I want you to do next. Begin to focus on the outline of that shape, and notice that as you do, you can just begin to make that shape smaller making that shape smaller and smaller the more you focus on it. Smaller and smaller. And smaller and smaller until that shape is as small as it can possibly be before it disappears completely. And when you get there, just notice what happens. And again, notice for you what it is that tells you that shape is as small as it can possibly be. Whether it's because you can see it or feel it or somewhere between the two. When you get there, I want you to do this. Make that shape smaller again still, so that as it disappears, when you come back to your body, come back to that feeling, that old feeling of anxiety that was there, just notice what's different about that feeling. Okay? Now on a good day, that feeling of anxiety will have disappeared and you can get on with whatever you were doing or planning to do. On a not so good day, you might find that it's changed a little bit or somewhere, or then maybe there's just something left. If that's the case, you've got a couple of options. You can treat the anxiety that's left as a new feeling and say, well, okay, well, if this anxiety had a shape, what shape would that be? And do the process again. Or you could use a different technique. You could try spinning it or something like that, or maybe breathing through it. Similar to what I said before in the spinning video, all of these techniques they get easier with practice. So once your mind knows the pattern, you might find you don't have to keep asking all those questions. When you think of that feeling and you think, oh, I think I'll do the shapeshifter on it, you might find that your mind just gives you the shape and it's really easy to just make it lighter and smaller or whatever it is for you. It's one of those things, again, that you need to get in the muscle and practice so that your mind knows the pattern. So, to run through the process again, when you're anxious, ask yourself, if there was somewhere in my body I felt that anxiety strongest, where would that be? Basically, where do I feel anxious? Once you've got the anxiety, you ask the question, if that anxiety had a shape, what shape comes to mind now? And then notice what shape you get. Then you ask the question, is that shape darker or lighter than the background that it's on? And just notice which is true for you. Assuming the shape is darker, the next thing you do is begin to focus on the shape and just make it smaller. Make it lighter. And make it lighter and lighter and more in line with the background, the lighter you make it, until that shape is exactly the same tone as the background. And then when you get there, begin to focus on the outline and make that shape smaller. And make that shape smaller and smaller until it's as small as it can possibly be before it disappears completely. So once it is as small as it can possibly be before it disappears completely, make it smaller again still. So that once it disappears, come back into your body, back to your experience of anxiety, and notice what's changed. And if you need to, do the process again. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, either put them in the comments below or send me an email at dbch.co.uk. There's a form on my website. See you soon.